Thursday and 12 o'clock crept up on me. It was 12 o'clock before I realised it this morning. Hi, I'm Anna from Eat, Move, Be Happy, and this is Movement Not Miracles. So the aim is to do what it says on the tin. This is about some movement to help keep your joints mobile, help look after your posture, stretch through some muscles to support your joints in a healthy way, so that we can ward off some of those aches and pains that we get from sitting in the same position or being in the same position for long periods of time. So today is going to be all about hips, and I was quietly thinking about what I could do with this session, and all of a sudden it was 12 o'clock. So should we get on with it, as it were? Some of these you'll need to be on the floor. There are seated versions for some, and I'll talk you through that. So if you are seated, as ever with all of these sessions, your start position, how you set the move up, is important. So if you are seated in a chair, then you can do this one, but you're going to be sitting up nice and tall, back straight, away from the back of the chair. So we don't want any slouching down and leaning back. We need to be sitting forwards with your weight evenly distributed between both sides of your bottom. So we don't want to be leaning to one side. So think about sitting on the bones of your bottom and sitting supported, weight evenly distributed. We're going to do this one, I'm going to do this one lying down. I've spent all morning sitting down. So the move is the same whether you're lying or seated. So what we're aiming to do is get hold of your knee and pull that knee in towards the chest. So in that move, you're going to stretch through your hip joint there, and I want you to think about keeping your back either flat on the floor or upright if you're sitting in a chair, and just keeping that pressure on the knee, bringing the knee to the chest. You might want to release it a little bit and then bring it back, because of course the second time is always better. And I don't mind, you can either do this as a bit of a repeat to get some movement in that hip joint, or you can hold the stretch to stretch through some of the muscles in the hip joint, whichever feels more comfortable for you. But of course, what we do on one side, we need to do on the other. This side is much tighter for me. So you can release it. We're just getting some movement through the hips to start with before we start moving and stretching them a bit more deliberately. You can also do this if you're lying on the floor with that other leg straight. So working to keep that hip down, so we don't want that hip to roll over. Again, whichever is more comfortable for you. If you're sitting in your chair, then you will have been pulling your knee up to your chest and sitting nice and tall. So we don't want to hunch down to meet the knee. We want the knee to come up to the chest. So taking that into a glute stretch. So again, if you're seated, bring your one knee, one leg onto the top of your thigh, and then lean forwards into that stretch. So we're going to be stretching around the outside of our butt here. If we're doing this lying down, so ankle onto mid-thigh, which creates a little triangle in between the legs. So if you reach forward and just pull that leg towards your chest. You can keep your head on the floor if that helps, that's more comfy. For me, it's a little bit more comfortable if my head is just off the floor. and you'll feel that stretch in the outer part of the knee, that is the foot that's on the top. So for me, this is my right leg. And again, you can release it, reset, and do it again, and hold for a number of breaths, or you can hold the stretch for a little bit longer. Pulling the knee closer to the chest increases that stretch. So if you're relaxed everywhere else, as you're breathing, you may find that your muscles give up and they think, okay, we're stretching now. And then you might be able to get a little bit further. And as ever, what we do on one side, we do on the other. So ankle onto the top of the thigh. Now, interestingly, this one is stiffer on this side. And I'm going to put my head down this time, just a bit awkward. Keep breathing into it. If you can relax through everywhere else, that helps with removing any tension. If you have tension in your body, it's really difficult to get muscles to stretch. Okay, so, and then just to really work on that piriformis, another way of doing this, a bit more difficult if you're seated, this one. So you might want to repeat the one that we've already done. So I'll show you this way so that you can see. So one leg, you're sitting tall, sitting on both bones of your bottom, one leg, working hard, nice and straight, toes pointing towards the ceiling, and we move your left leg, my right leg is straight, your left leg, foot flat on the floor, around about knee, by your knee. And then you're going to get hold of your knee with your elbow and rotate round towards this bent leg. So you're going to be stretching through your piriformis here. So it's the same area, it's a different type of stretch that we've just done. Now, if you are super mobile in your back, because we're also stretching through our back here, you might be able to place your elbow on the outside of your knee and push round. Now, I can't do that easily, so I'm going to hug my elbow, but you need to be sitting tall in order to get some rotation. Now, if you're in a chair, you can still cross that leg over so that you've got your knee, it won't be supported on the floor, but you can still cross that leg over and see if you can pull and twist your body round. So this is a bit of a spine rotation as well as stretching through your piriformis, which mine really need a lot of work. Okay, so we're going to do the same on the other side. So we sit nice and tall to start off with. Place that bent leg foot on the floor. Work hard through that straight leg, don't let it be lazy. And then hook your elbow and push on with your hand behind you. And as you breathe out, see if you can twist a tiny bit further round. And keep breathing. And this just gets that piriformis in a slightly different angle, which is quite good. Okay. So a side bend now. So a slight variation on the side bends that we've been doing, and for those of you that know me will know I like side bends. They're good for me. So we're going to kneel on one leg and the other leg goes out to the side. So, oh, my knee's a bit wobbly. What I want you to think about is hips facing forwards to start off with, and your weight from your knee to your hip to your shoulder in a nice straight line. So we don't want that hip sticking out, and we don't want to have your bum sticking out. So we don't want any jackknife position like this. So we've got to tilt our pelvis, work through our glute to keep your hips stable and your back flat. So as ever, we're working through on the leg that's kneeling, so my right leg, the muscle in the back of your bottom, your glute max is working, and on this leg, it's on the outside of your glute. And then holding that position, so stabilising there, now what I want you to do is to stretch. First of all, towards your straight leg. And keep breathing. And then the other side, away from your straight leg, keeping your hips steady and reach with that hand. See if you can get your hand to the floor. One hand over the top, and we'll come back this way. So you should feel a nice stretch on the outside of this hip, this side. I'm having a bit of a mad hair day today. And then all down the side of your body, the other side. And then we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'll move over a little bit so that you can see. So set up, knee, hip, shoulder, work through your glute to stabilise. My right leg is out straight and keeping my hips forward. First of all, we're going to go towards the straight leg. So you feel a nice stretch down the outside of your hip. You're not going to be able to move that far with this. Try and reach hard over with your arm. And remember, you need to keep your bottom. So your butt is working to keep your hips forward. So you've got a nice open hip area. We're not letting this flexion happen, which takes the stretch out of the hip. And then we go the other way. And see if you can touch the floor. You might be able to hear my dogs barking. Somebody's obviously walking past. Really stretch away. There we go. And once more this side. Right. And then just to do the front of our hips, we're going to do the lunging hip flexor, which it is a deep stretch, but it's not as deep as the one where I've been using the radiator to balance on, but where you lift that back foot up as well. So what we're aiming to do is hips stay forward, and we're just going to lean, but you need to keep pushing through your glutes to push your bottom forwards, to really access the top of your hip here, the top of your thigh. If you let go with your back, then you take the stretch completely out of your hip flexor. I'm going to have to roll my mat up because the kneeling on the floor is hard on my knee. It doesn't like it. So hips come forward, and we lean forward into that. Don't let your hips, your bottom stick out. Okay, and then we'll do the same on the other side. Hips stay forward. Before you move, push forwards with your glutes. Your glutes, it's good work for your glutes, these moves, because you have to work through the muscle in order to stabilise the joint. So these are not passive moves, they are active moves where we're working through the muscle group, and you will feel that stretch down the front of that hip flexor. Okay, and then one more for the hip flexor. Slightly different angle for this one, a bit like we did before with the kneeling side bend. So kneeling on your right leg, left leg out. Now this time, what we're aiming to do is you're going to twist. You're stretching through this part of your hip. So we've gone through the front of your hip, you're actually moving it round. So you're thinking of using your glutes to open up your hips, but you're twisting, you're rotating your body round. So push that hip towards the floor and come forwards. So I'm having to work through my left glute to get that to work, and then the other side. So we'll be stretching through the right side this time. So first of all, get your glute engaged, and so you're pushing that hip towards the floor and then rotating around. If you can put your hands on the floor. So think of pushing that bit towards the floor and keeping that butt forwards, which is a slightly different angle for the hip flexor. Okay, so hopefully your hips feel a little bit more stretched, a little bit more awake, the outside, the front, a bit more movement in them. We tend to sit with our hips in flexion, or hip flexors in flexion all of the time, and as human beings we are not designed to sit like that. So even sitting cross-legged is quite good for our hips. It helps change the angle of your thigh bone into your hip joint and just get a bit more movement. The less we move through the full range of the joint, the less likely you are going to be able to do that. We get stiffer, and more movement encourages that joint to move more. It sort of makes sense, but we forget about it in everyday life, and then we wonder why, I don't know, we wake up feeling a bit stiff and achy, or we get up from having sat for ages feeling stiff and achy. So my hips have taken a bit of a pummeling with workouts over the last couple of days, so I was thinking it might be quite nice to give them a bit of a stretch off. I had a very lovely run on the moor this morning, but I did feel quite stiff when I got back. So thank you for that. Thank you for indulging me. Tell me, let me know how you get on. Tell me what else you would like me to cover. I'll be back tomorrow at 12 for another Movement Not Miracles. If you want to check out some more details of Eat, Move, Be Happy, we have a full workout with us library. You can go and do different workouts when is most convenient for you. You can build your own workouts. We've got a full Eat Better section, so you can understand your relationship with food and maybe make some healthier eating choices, and a full mental health series around looking after your physical and mental health and well-being. So if you want some more information, go and check out the website www.eatmovebehappy.com. There are different subscription levels, and you get 5 days free, so you can go and see the myriad of information that's there. Joining the peer support group is the online community where people support each other, ask questions, help each other out, keep momentum. It's so much better when you're doing this with other people. So check out Eat, Move, Be Happy, and let us know how you get on. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday and this sunshine, and I will see you tomorrow.